This is Amir Hussain. So this would be the second part of the topic, that is caste in politics, and we are discussing caste inequalities, how these inequalities are prevalent in Indian society, how they are how they persisted in Indian society. We are discussing that, and in the part first, we have already discussed the various inequalities, caste inequalities, and the caste system of India. So we will continue this topic. And so another important feature of the caste system of India is another feature of caste system that existed in India is exclusion. It is exclusion, and it is exclusion of and discrimination against outcasts. What are these outcasts? So another feature, एक और खुसूसियत जो कास्ट सिस्टम की है वो एक्सक्लूजन है, एज वेल एज डिस्क्रिमिनेशन अगेंस्ट आउटकास्ट्स. ये जो आउटकास्ट्स हैं, who were these people? These were actually downtrodden. These were downtrodden sections of society. And why outcast? The word outcast itself speaks that these were out of the caste, or these were outside the caste. ये outside caste है, और these were thrown out of caste. Why these were thrown out of caste? Because due to some offense, it is believed that because of some offense, because of the offense done by these low caste people, or because of their offense of rituals, दे इन ए वे इन्होंने क्या किया, इन्होंने रिचुअल्स को नकार किया, कहीं पे इन्होंने वायलेशन की. दे वर एलिगेड ऑफ वायलेटिंग द कास्ट रूल्स, दे वायलेशन ऑफ कास्ट रूल्स और दीज रिचुअल्स. इन्होंने वायलेट की ये रिचुअल्स, इन्होंने ये ऑफेंस किया, ये बहुत बड़ी गलती जुर्म किया, जिस जुर्म की सज़ा जो है इनको मिली. एंड दे वर थ्रोन आउट ऑफ द कास्ट, इनको कास्ट सिस्टम से बाहर निकाला गया. दीज वर एक्सपेल्ड, they were expelled. These people, they were expelled from the caste, otherwise they originally belonged to some caste. But because of their offense, because of their violation of caste rules, rituals, they were thrown out of the caste. They were expelled from the caste. That's why they are living now outside the caste. And these castes, so-called outcasts, these were looked down by the society. The upper castes, they looked down upon these outcasts. These outcasts had suffered a lot. Their position is very miserable. Their position is very miserable. It is very deplorable, and they have suffered a lot. They were exploited from the times immemorial. From the ancient times, they were the worst hit of the exploitation, They were worst hit. They were these sufferers of this caste system. They had suffered a lot, and their position is still very miserable, deplorable position. So, and you will be amazed, you will be surprised when you came to know that in the medieval, in the ancient period, their position was so deplorable that even Fahim was a Chinese traveler. He was a Chinese traveler who visited India during Gupta period. And this Fahim, he believes when he visited the India, he came to know, he found in India, or he came to know that some castes called the Chandalas, these in ancient times, some people, some groups of castes, they were called Chandalas. These were outcasts, the Chandalas. And their position, also Shudras, according to this person, Hyun Sang, Chinese traveler who visited India during Gupta period, he has this found that in India during ancient time, these Chandalas had carried a bell. They had carried a bell, or sometimes two pieces of wood, or two wooden pieces, and they always had to strike. According to him, these outcasts, these Chandalas, they had to strike these pieces of wood, or sometimes they have to ring the bell in order to warn the other castes, especially these Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, in order to warn them so that they will remain during that period in their own houses. And even physical contact with these physical contact of Brahmans, upper castes, with the lower castes, or with these Chandalas, outcasts, even that sometimes led to these, compelled these upper castes, especially Brahmans, to go for ritual bathing. ये रिचुअल बाथिंग के लिए जाते थे अगर इनका फिजिकल कंटैक्ट कभी कभार वो एक्सीडेंट, बाय एक्सीडेंट और बाय चांस इनके साथ होता था. So this was the kind of caste system, so much rigid caste system that India had since the ancient times. And even during medieval period, this system continued. But when this Turkish people called Turks, when Turks came to India, in India they established an empire called the Delhi Sultanate. With their coming to India, with the coming of the Turks to India, however, the position of these these Chandalas, untouchables, they are also called untouchable, Shudras, their position became to some extent stable. Why? Because Muslims didn't believe in caste system. They did not believe in caste system. So, according to a historian called Muhammad Habib, when with the coming of these Turkish people to India, there was, according to him, a urban revolution. There was a kind of urban revolution. What was that urban revolution? That was actually he believes that with the coming of Turks, there was a kind of this urban revolution. And what was that urban revolution? That was these Turks, they opened the caste cities. The caste cities which were earlier the reserved for the upper caste people, they thrown open to all these caste these cities. And in these caste cities, even the people of lower castes called Chandalas or these untouchables, Shudras, they even lived in these cities during the Turkish Sultanate or during the Delhi Sultanate or with the coming of Turks. And they also, according to this Muhammad Habib, they help these Turkish rulers, these Turks. They even employed Indian lower caste people in the construction of the new buildings. And this was the kind of urban revolution which was seen during medieval period and in the modern period. And one important thing, this in the modern period, this system of caste, this caste system, it continued in one or other way. It continued and it got more, it was more a kind of rigid, it was more and more rigid system, especially in the villages, especially in the rural areas. And one important thing that is associated, these so-called outcasts, these outcasts were also they were also subjected to a practice of untouchability. They were also these outcasts were also subjected to a practice that was called a inhuman practice. This was an inhuman practice. Why? Because इसमें इंसानियत जो है ये इंसानियत का लिहाज नहीं करती थी, क्योंकि यही अनटचेबल्स जो यही आउटकास्ट जो थे, they were considered as even as a source of pollution. These were considered as a source of pollution during the medieval period, during the modern period even, and in ancient period also. And looking over them was considered as a source of pollution. इनकी तरफ देखना भी source of pollution था. और अगर इनकी नज़र पड़ जाती ब्राह्मण्स पे तो ब्राह्मण्स रिचुअल बाथिंग करते थे. So this was their position in the Indian society, in this caste system. So they were the worst sufferers, they were worst hit by this caste system. And their deplorable and miserable condition, it caught the attention of political leaders and also socio-religious reformers. So these people, that is political leaders of India, such as Gandhiji, political leaders such as Gandhiji, B.R. Ambedkar, and many other political leaders, they highlighted the atrocities, the suppression, the oppression committed on these outcasts, on these untouchables. And they raised the voice against this inhuman practice of untouchability. ये अछूत लोग जो थे, अछूतपन जो था इनका, इन अछूतों को सोसाइटी में जो जिस नज़र से देखा जाता था, उसकी तरफ सबसे पहले जो है इन्हीं पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स और सोशो रिलीजियस रिफॉर्मर्स जो है थे इंडिया के, उन्होंने सबसे पहले वॉइस रेज की. And among the political leaders, we have Gandhiji. And Gandhiji was the person who called these untouchables as Harijans. He used an important term and he wrote the book also. He called them as Harijans. And what he meant by Harijans? He meant these untouchables. And he also wrote a book on them called Harijans. So he raised the voice against this untouchability. He said that this untouchability is inhuman practice, therefore it should end. This untouchability should end. This is an evil prevalent in Indian society, and this evil should be eliminated from Indian society. And same way, B.R. Ambedkar, he also raised his voice, and he himself belonged to a very lower caste, that is Dalit caste, and Dalits were also considered as the untouchables. And even today, the position of Dalits in the Indian society is very miserable. So the point is that these people, these political leaders, they raised their voice. And in the same way, some socio-religious reform movements, various socio-religious reform movements, they emerged in India from time to time. And among them we have Raja Ram Mohan Rai. Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Raja Ram Mohan Rai, he also raised the voice. He also raised his voice against this inhuman practice, that is untouchability. And same way we have other leaders such as Jyotiba. We have Jyotiba Phule. Jyotiba Phule also raised his voice. He also fought against this inhuman practice. Likewise, we have Nekar also. Ramaswamy Nekar. We have Ramaswamy Nekar. And these socio-religious reform movements, they highlighted in their religious reform movements, socio-religious reform movements, they highlighted this inhuman practice. And it was because of these socio-religious reform movements, socio-religious reformers and political leaders that finally it were these who fought. Because of their untiring efforts, this practice was later on then it was eliminated, it was prohibited, this was abolished completely from the Indian society. But nevertheless, it were these people who raised their voice, and these people demanded a caste-less society. They demanded a society where these caste inequalities, they should end, and they wanted a caste-less society where everyone will enjoy the equal status. And because of their efforts, finally this practice was abolished. So this was all about how these socio-religious reform movements and also these so-called the political leaders of India, they also raised their voice, they also fought against this system of caste system, especially the practice of untouchability.